Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate Day number 1216, 1216, August the 10th, 2020, Monday. Okay, well, welcome back to TowerGate and the Spygate story. That's what we're talking about here, and it's all we're talking about these days because it's crunch time. So today I want to talk about the two interviews that were done on Sunday morning by Maria Bartiromo. Her first interview was done with Lindsey Graham, and then she followed that later in the broadcast with an interview from Stephen Schrage. Stephen Schrage. That's a name that popped up about a little over a year ago. I went back and looked at my timeline to kind of check that. It's been a little over a year that name first popped up. And the role that he played was that he was the person who organized the conference over in Cambridge, Douglas, in Cambridge, and he is the one who invited Carter Page, and of course we know at that time he had some association with Fat Man Stefan Halper. And Bartiromo digs into that with Mr. Schrage. So we're going to talk about that as well. So let's go ahead and go through these. Let's first of all start with the Lindsey Graham interview. The interview was preceded by Bartiromo announcing that she had just received, as many of us had just seen, these somewhat redacted documents from the intelligence briefing that was given to the Senate Intelligence Committee back in March of 2018 by FBI officials. And this is what Graham has been talking about for the past week when he said he's waiting for the next release of documents that he said would be very damning and prove that the FBI lied to the Senate Intelligence Committee back in March of 2018. And the lies had to do with the primary subsource. The FBI briefed the Senate Intelligence Committee and said, oh yeah, the primary subsource, he's all good, he backs Steele, and basically things about the Steele dossier, oh yeah, it's solid and all that sort of thing. So this is what Graham's beef is here, and what he was on the show to talk about is the fact that he says this is a whole separate crime from lying to the FISA court, that these documents also prove that these FBI agents lied to the Senate Intelligence Committee as well. There's a lot to dig into here because there's a lot of background that we don't have time to go into. Suffice it to say, I do not trust Lindsey Graham. I believe that he's got a lot of things to worry about. He has to be very careful about what comes out. Lindsey Graham wants certain things to come out. He's running for re-election, you know. Otherwise, he'd never be having these hearings in the first place. But he's worried about other things that may come out. I think that there is an effort underway. It appears to me there's an effort underway that a lot of these deep state players, including Graham, many probably on the Senate Intelligence Committee, the deep state cabal, have come to a conclusion that there's about to be some heads lopped off. And now they're all getting together to decide who they're going to throw under the bus to cover their own behinds. And I think that they have signed on to a certain group of people. I think they're going to go with the FBI. That probably will go all the way to the top with Comey and McCabe, Strzok and Page, and some of these people that have been referred to in the past as folks in the small group. The small group. So it looks like the majority of players are going to try to limit the liability to themselves and their friends by everyone turning on the low-hanging fruit. And that would be Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Page, and those people, a small group. They are the low-hanging fruit. All the people who were also involved in the coup, like Lindsey Graham, and his good buddy Senator Magoo, they're going to try to cover their butts. That's just my gut feeling. I could be wrong, but that's my gut feeling. So, Lindsey Graham talks about this briefing, which occurred in March of 2018. Well, that's when the memo was created. I think the briefing actually occurred in February, a week or two before that. As far as who the FBI agents were, it's kind of funny that Senator Graham is telling Maria Bartiromo, here we are in, late summer 2020, and he's telling Maria Bartiromo, yeah, well, we need to find out who those FBI agents were. I'm like, are you kidding me? You work in the same building with them. You see them every day. Why don't you just walk up and ask one of them? Lindsay? We don't need to go to Director Ray. We don't need to request more documents. We don't need to wait for Judicial Watch to tell you. If you want to know who interviewed or who gave the interview, go ask someone on the Senate Intelligence Committee, Lindsay. It's not that hard. Now, I know for sure who one of them was. I don't know how many. They didn't say the number of FBI agents who gave the Senate Intelligence Committee, the most deep state committee in the entire Congress, and I'll get to something else in just a minute about that, but we don't know how many, because Graham didn't say how many FBI agents gave that Senate Intel briefing. But I can tell you, I know who one of them was. One of them would have been McCabe. It would have been not director level, but it definitely would have been assistant director level to give that type of briefing to the Senate Intelligence Committee. That would be because other agents below that who would normally give these types of briefings to congressional committees, those guys are like liaisons. They're actually at the Senate Intelligence Committee. They're actually on Capitol Hill. They work for the FBI, but they're actually on Capitol Hill, and they get memos and emails, and they may have meetings. But this was way above their pay grade. So something as sensitive as the primary subsource and the deep background into Christopher Steele, that would have been someone in the Crossfire Hurricane or small group of characters. So it absolutely, and I doubt it would have been Schrage because he was the counterintelligence guy. It would have been someone higher up than that. And I would think it would either have been Priestep or McCabe, but Priestep was counterintelligence. And this is a wider ranging deal. So I think that one of the people who I'm 99% certain would have been giving that briefing would have been McCabe. But all Lindsey Graham had to do before he went on Maria Bartiromo was pick up the phone and go call one of his buddies in the Senate Intelligence Committee, or say something to him when he sees him in the hall, or down there getting some coffee, or getting a haircut, or down at the gym, or wherever. I mean, these people all work in the same damn building. All I do is, well, hey man, who gave you guys that briefing? That's all he had to say. But apparently, Lindsey Graham hasn't figured that out. He thinks he needs a document request to find out who gave the Senate Intelligence Committee that briefing. And do you think that Lindsey Graham, as head of the Judiciary Committee, with all his buddies on the Senate Intelligence Committee, didn't know? I find that very hard to believe. He's got the security clearance. I'm sure that everybody knew. Republicans, Democrats, that type of thing is not kept silent. That would have been shared with everybody. It should have gone to the Gang of 8, at least. So I'm having a rough time believing that the Senate Intelligence Committee, or all these guys in the Senate, that every senator, with the exception of maybe a few like Rand Paul, probably kept out of the loop, but I would say that most of the senators within 24 hours of that briefing had gotten wind of what was said in that briefing, and very likely who gave the briefing, especially if it was someone as high up as a McCabe, and I'm sure it was at least one of them. So another thing is, if this briefing occurred in March of 2018, that was over 2 years ago. That was almost 2.5 years ago. Which means, with all the evidence that's come out since the Horowitz report from Huckleberry Horowitz, which came out around, Thanksgiving of last year, that at the very earliest, and they probably, of course they knew long before this, I'm just going with what's in the public record. In the public record, the Horowitz report came out in the late fall around Thanksgiving of 2020, or 2019 rather. And so here we are, coming up on not too long from a year, here in a couple months, it'll be a year that we've had Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz's report made public. And at that time, and probably long before that, the people on the Senate Intelligence Committee, all of them, Republicans and Democrats, should have immediately come out the next day and said, whoa, look what it says in the Horowitz report. You know what that means? That means that briefing that we got 2 years ago, back in March of 2018, was lies. The FBI lied to all of us. And the Horowitz report proves it. But that didn't happen, did it? Nope. Certainly didn't. And what was the main reason that they really had that briefing in the first place? Well, it had a lot to do with protecting the Mueller investigation. Because who led the charge right around that same time that briefing was given to want to step up and defend and protect the Mueller investigation? By passing a measure in the Senate to protect Mueller and his investigation. That would have been Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham, at about the very same time that the Senate Intelligence Committee is getting this briefing, which we know they shared with a lot of people, including Senator Graham. What does Senator Graham want to do? He wants to come out and protect the Mueller investigation. Because Trump, it was being talked about that Trump may fire Mueller. So Lindsey Graham, well, we're not going to let him fire Mueller. No, we're not going to let him fire Mueller. And I'm going to put together a resolution in the Senate to support and defend Mueller in his investigation against the president. And this is all happening at about the same time that the Senate has just been briefed that by the FBI and lied to by the FBI. But they all knew it was lies. The Senate Intelligence Committee already knew that the dossier was bullshit, knew that the FBI was lying about everything, and that this was an ongoing coup attempt. And at the time, there was still hope that it may succeed for Lindsay and all his friends. Lindsey Graham is only doing what he's doing because he has to do it. Look how late in the game it is. Look how long he waited. He could have been having these hearings 1.5 years ago, right after the 2018 midterms. Yes, he's kicked the ball down the road month after month after month. And finally, when it looked like there was no hope of getting rid of Trump, Lindsey Graham had no choice, running for re-election, but to pretend he's got Trump's back. Lindsey Graham is a fraud. And the only things he's releasing are things that he knows are going to come out anyway, very soon. Which is why all these people are coming out. Because they now know, especially since Barr just testified in those hearings and said, no, I'm not going to carry the Durham investigation over until after the election. We very likely will come out before the election with a report or indictments or whatever action that Durham is going to take. So now the people are coming out of the woodwork. They know that the game is just about up. That's why Silly Sally agreed to testify without having to be subpoenaed. She sat there and lied her ass off the entire time, which is what they're all going to do, and they've all decided, like Yates, to throw the small group FBI people under the bus to cover their own butts, which is exactly what we knew would happen. And I absolutely guarantee you that Sally didn't just agree to come in and answer questions from home. I guarantee you there was all sorts of negotiations and agreements made with Silly Sally. That was a setup. That was a show. This is all an organized show because they now realize that heads are going to roll. And everybody's picking sides. And it looks like the deep staters have all decided, and Yates is in the same boat with Graham. They've all decided that, well, Comey and Strzok and Page and those guys, they're toast. I mean, those people are toast. Can't save them. We can only save ourselves. So let's all turn on them and point the finger at them. And they're all going down. And they should. But the rest of them should go down with them. So the Senate Intelligence Committee knew a long time ago, that the FBI lied to them. But not a single one of them has come out. And there's a lot of Republicans on that Senate Intel Committee. Not a single one of them has come out and said, hey, we were lied to. Don't you find that a bit curious? That not a single damn Republican on the Senate Intelligence Committee, 2.5 years after they were briefed, or spring of 18 to 19 to 20, yeah, about 2.5 years after they were briefed. And let's just go back again. Let's just go back to the Mueller report. Mueller report comes out last year. So basically, a year and 5-6 months, almost a year and a half after they're briefed by the FBI and lied to, that becomes a fact as a result of the IG Horowitz report. And they've had all this time since last November to come out and say, hey, we were lied to by the FBI. But not a single one has. And to this day, not a single one has. That's how you know this thing is a big-time cover-up. Republicans up to their eyeballs in this, just as much as Democrats. That's why it's taken so long to try to get the truth. But now that they know that heads are going to roll from the Durham investigation, because Barr is a slightly different type of animal, he knows they're not going to cover up their crimes. They know that Judgment Day is coming. And so everybody is going to be, I guarantee you there are going to be people, and have been people in the last probably couple months, and will continue to be people now, beating a path to the door of Durham to try to spill their guts, to try to save their butts. Hopefully, he's not a sucker. So in my mind, everyone on the Senate Intelligence Committee needs to resign immediately. Everyone on the Senate Intelligence Committee needs to resign. Republicans and Democrats, the whole group. They were all briefed back in 2018, told by the FBI that all the allegations by the primary subsource were solid, Steele's stuff was solid, the dossier was all solid. They knew it was bullshit back then, but let's just play the game. Then the Horowitz report comes out last year around Thanksgiving time, and has a single one of them come forward to say, hey, we were lied to? Not a one. What's that mean? It means they're complicit. They're complicit in the cover-up. Every damn member of the Senate Intelligence Committee and anyone else who knew, and I think that would include Graham, and probably the entire damn Senate, they all need to resign, and they should be immediately charged with conspiracy. They're part of the coup. Make no mistake about it. But Lindsey Graham said he's going to write a letter to Christopher Wray. Remember, this happened under Christopher Wray, no shit Sherlock Ray's tutelage. He was the FBI director when the FBI gave that briefing and lied. Do you think Christopher no shit Sherlock Ray knew that the FBI went over and lied to the Senate Intelligence Committee? And what would be the reason for that? To protect the Mueller investigation. Because had they come out and said, hey, guess what? We got lied to. As it turns out, the primary subsource is bullshit, blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? The entire Mueller team would be in handcuffs right now. Lindsey Graham is a fraud. Everyone on the Senate Intelligence Committee is guilty of conspiracy and a cover-up of the crime and are in on it. That's how bad it is. That's why Trump's getting out of town. He ain't got any friends. Even those who look like and are pretending to be his friends are not his friends. The Republicans are up to their eyeballs in this as much as the Democrats are. They were part of the coup. Straight up. That's the hard reality, folks. If you're a Republican loyalist, I'm sorry I broke your heart. I bet you can count the number. I bet the number of people who actually are solid and are legit. Probably 10 people or less. Nunes, Jordan, some of those guys, Freedom Caucus guys. The rest, probably 95%, including a lot of Republicans, were all in for the coup and still are. But now they know that it's about to hit the fan. And so they're all running for cover, and they've all obviously got together and decided who they're going to point the finger at to try to cover their butts. So we can see who the fall guys are going to be. I certainly hope Durham's smart enough, honest enough, tenacious enough not to be fooled by these chumps. The deep state is real, and it's both sides of the aisle. I could go on for another hour on this topic, but I don't have much time. So let's move on to the second guest from Maria Bartiromo, and that's this hack, Mr. Schrage, Stephen Schrage. His name came up about a little over a year ago as being the person who invited Carter Page over to Cambridge to that seminar. And he's the one who actually put it together and invited. He says he was there at Cambridge working on his PhD, and Stefan Halper, who he has known and worked with for many years, was his senior. He was working under Halper to get his PhD. This guy's up to his eyeballs in it, my friends, but he goes on Maria Bartiromo and tries to act like he's the big whistleblower. He's going to come out now and blow it wide open. Suddenly he's decided to come out because we all need to know what really happened. He's been in that group with Halper and all his criminal buddies this entire time, and he's just now. He's known everything that he told Maria Bartiromo. He's known for 2.5 years. He sat back and watched Carter Page destroy his life. Papadopoulos destroy his life. This woman Lakova destroy her life, and a lot of other things. Schrage has known about all this for all this time. Jordan, Goodlatte Committee with Gowdy, he never came forward to talk to them. He never came forward to talk to Nunes' committee. Suddenly, he just got hit with the honesty stick. What do you think? There's a reason for that. Because what I just said. Because these people who thought they could avoid it now realize they may be falling under the sword, you might say. Their necks may be on the chopping block. And now they're going to try to pretend that they all want to come forward and tell the truth. But Schrage is a real sorry bastard, because he's trying to make it sound like, yeah, this is just horrible. It's just my conscience. I just have to come forward. We have to get this out. This is just so important. Let's come out before the election. We got to know what really happened. This guy was up to his eyeballs in the plot, and now he's throwing Halper under the bus, because he knows that Halper is going down, and he's connected to Halper right at the hip. So now he's trying to distance himself from Halper and drop on Halper. He must believe he has plausible deniability. So he was one of Halper's students at Cambridge working on his PhD. He discloses something that we already knew, just some anecdotal evidence that what's his name? Not Isikoff. The other report, Ignatius, the Washington Post, was Halper's #1 go-to source in the media, and that he also had another student who Schrage doesn't name, but there was another student there under Halper who was also talking to a Washington Post reporter, Bob Costa. He didn't name that individual, but I'm sure that that name will come out soon. Another thing that's very interesting is that 2 times, and Bartiromo actually doubled down and reiterated it and asked him again, you say you've talked to Durham? Because we have this guy Schrage saying, oh yeah, a couple weeks ago I went to Durham so that I could tell him all about it. That's a typical guilty son of a bitch, isn't it? A guy who's involved, who knows he's involved, who's been thinking all this time he might be able to slide out of it, but then he probably got some words, someone probably whispered in his ear, hey, they got Halper. Oh, they got him good, man. They got him by the balls. Probably made him nervous. So he decided to come forward. He's been sitting back watching this for 2.5 years as these people have been having their lives destroyed, country put through hell. This guy could have come out 2.5 years ago and thrown a wrench into the spokes and upset the apple cart, but he didn't do it. It's just now he wants to come out. And he says that he met with Durham. He met with Durham. He said it twice, and then Maria Bartiromo even came back and said, now, you said that you met with Durham. Oh, yeah. I just talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and I told him, you know, that we have to get to the bottom of this, and I'll be more than happy to help you with anything you need. Yeah, after all this time, he suddenly got hit with the honesty stick. He's a liar and a fraud. This guy's up to it in his eyeballs. He's a freaking neocon. Worked on the Romney campaign, the McCain campaign. He's a longtime Republican insider. Comes out of neocon think tanks. He was involved in this plot up to his eyeballs, my friends. He was part of the setup of Carter Page. And he says, well, you know, Halper wasn't even really interested in any of this stuff until Carter Page kind of popped up. Bullshit. Bullshit. Halper was on to Flynn in 2014. He was bootstrapping his way into Papadopoulos early in the spring of 2016 when he was over there interviewing and taping what's his name, Papadopoulos' boss. He's probably the guy who brought Misfit in or knows Misfit. This guy Schrage is a liar. I don't trust him a bit. I was looking at his face. I watched the interview 4 times. 4 times. And the last 2 times, I just wanted to look at his face. Watch his mannerisms. Didn't care about what he said because I'd already written down most of what I cared about. I wanted to read his body language. His facial expressions. This guy's a stone-cold liar. He's got guilt written all over his face. And scheming written all over his face. And lies in those pupils of his. I don't believe this guy talked to Durham. Durham is running the investigation from Connecticut. He was down here for a while in D.C. for several weeks. Then he went back, I think because the court shut down. He couldn't get grand juries. But he's not, Durham is the head of the investigation. He is not the guy that sits down with people, especially a fairly low-level player like this cat. Durham doesn't sit down with this guy. But this guy, Schrage, says he talked to Durham. I doubt seriously if he talked to Durham. He might have talked to Durham's people, but he didn't talk to Durham. I'd be 99% sure about that. 99% sure. Prosecutors don't like to talk to the people who they haven't vetted yet. When you come into the FBI to give information, I hate to tell you this, my friends, but when you walk in that door to give the FBI information, as far as they're concerned, you're 50-50. You could be coming in to be a real witness to tell the truth, or you could be a guilty son of a bitch coming in to cover your ass. And until they read you, and until they get the information from you they need to dig into you a little bit and find out, you don't get to talk to the big guy. The big guy, you don't see him until the court trials come up, if they come up. The top guy normally isn't the guy who does these debriefings, especially with a fairly low-level player like this cat. So I find it very hard to believe that he spoke to Durham. I think this guy's a liar. I think he's a fraud. I think he, like everyone else, realizes that heads are about to roll, and he's trying to cover his butt, and he's throwing Halper under the bus. Because Halper, he's probably already been, someone whispered in his ear and said, hey, they got Halper. They got him. And he's probably cooperating. And maybe he'll talk about you. You better go cover your butt before Halper throws you to the lions. That's why he went in there. He wants to know what Halper told them. He went there looking for information, not to give information. He wants to know what they got on him. What did Halper give him? This is exactly how these things go. I know how these people are. Not fully me. This guy's dirty. Mr. Schrage says he's gonna be talking more. We'll see about that. We'll see if he talks anymore. Has anything else to add? He also wants to throw the 4 guys under the bus over in the UK. Breedlove and all those guys. The Cambridge British connection. Yeah, I would say that be very, very skeptical with Mr. Schrage. Very skeptical about this guy. Maria Bartiromo was pretty generous to him, pretty nice to him, but I wouldn't be surprised if she, she wanted him on the show, and she's hoping he'll come back on the show. So, she's pretty clever. She's pretty smart. I hope that she thinks about this a little bit. I hope that she goes back and looks at some of the facts. And I think maybe once she sleeps on it and thinks about it some more, she'll start getting a bit of skepticism, as I have. And maybe next time he comes on her show, she'll have some different questions for him. The kind of questions I would ask. Now let's get back to this thing that was going down last week. I've had a chance to think about this for a while as well. We got this story last week that Brennan is going to talk to Durham. Now he won't actually be talking to Durham. Again, Durham is not talking to these people. Durham is a top guy running the thing. Brennan would be most likely talking to lieutenants of Durham's. The actual on-the-ground investigators who are reviewing this information, working on it every day. Durham is the head U.S. attorney in Connecticut. He's still the head, he didn't stop being the U.S. attorney in Connecticut. He's dealing with dozens and dozens and dozens of cases in his own office up in Connecticut every day. He doesn't have time to be down here interviewing these people. He's the guy that's the final collector of information. He has meetings with his investigators probably a couple times a week, and they discuss what their findings are, and he directs them. But he's not the guy who's doing day-to-day interviews, I would not think. He took a couple trips with Barr and that sort of thing, but for the most part, Durham is not the guy conducting a lot of the interviews. It's people working under him. He's directing them. But anyway, we get the story that Brennan is going to cooperate with Durham and answer his questions, and then the story further was embellished by the fact that they're reporting that Brennan was told that he was not going to be targeted, that they just wanted to clear up some facts. Now, that came from, the source of that was public broadcasting. Public broadcasting, not ABC, NBC, CBS, or any of the others, not the New York Times or Washington Post, Wall Street Journal. No. It came from public broadcasting. Not only that, the DOJ never came out and made a statement that they were going to interview Brennan and that he was not a target. They've never come out and said he wasn't a target, nor did they come out after the story came out and even comment on it. Not the Department of Justice spokeswoman, Carrie Kupek. No one has come out from the department and commented on whether or not Brennan is or is not still a target. So I am seriously questioning the story. I am seriously questioning the story, where it came from. I think it may be coming from Brennan himself. I think those are Brennan's people who called public broadcasting and said, hey, run this story that he's not a target. And that would be for PR reasons. That's why Brennan would do it. He's a very slick character, and that's something he might do. I don't believe the story. I think he's still probably a target of Durham's. Now, the thing that we have learned from Mr. Schrage, from Yates, Silly Sally, and from Rodent Steen, what have we learned from these three people? They were all dupes. They were all dupes. And that's what you're going to hear from a lot of these people. I was duped. Everybody was duped.